We should start, I suppose, right back at the beginning, right back at the start. When I was a wee boy, my ma and my dad would take me to Clydebank. We would go on a low-level train, and I would love it. I would love it. My man and my dad would go there to visit my aunt and my uncle, and I would go there to visit my cousins, visit my cousin Raymond, and play his computer, which was at that time a Commodore 64. Castle of Terror was a text adventure game on the Commodore 64, and it terrified me. The music terrified me. The entire experience terrified your dad. Terrified me completely. I was in that house in Clydebank. I would have nightmares about Castle of Terror. This was a time in my life when I was just soaking everything up. I was soaking everything up, and Castle of Terror was so atmospheric. The music was so good, and I was kind of obsessed. I was obsessed. I was scared of it, but I was obsessed as well. I just couldn't get enough. And I love horror. Loved horror films all my life, and I think it was the beginnings of that as well. Now, you'll remember your daddy had a lot of board games. A lot of board games, big board game collection. And really, when I was a wee boy, I didn't really play a great deal of board games when I was a kid. But I did play a game called Mule on the Commodore 64. And Mule kinda was a board game. It felt like a board game. When I play board games these days, a lot of those board games I play feel like Mule, like things that were happening in Mule. And it's a fantastic game that was made by a wonderful, wonderful woman. And she's gone now. But she's left behind this beautiful thing that we can play, that you can play, that we can all play, and that's beautiful, isn't it? It's important to leave stuff behind, darling, so leave stuff behind if you can. And then we have Alter Ego. Alter Ego was a game that allowed you to play through a life. And I remember when I played this game when I was a wee guy, a life seemed like a million years. You know, being able to play through childhood, your teenage years, your adult life in the space of like an hour felt ridiculous, you know. It felt like life is much, much longer than that, but it really isn't. It really isn't. And Alter Ego gave you a chance to make some decisions, and you couldn't possibly, at that age when I was playing it, I didn't know anything. But I remember being shocked at some points in the game because it would remind you of terrible things that would happen. It would let you know, it would build up to the reality of the fact that daddies have to die. And I think it's an important thing to realise for people, you know. I remember when your granda, when my dad was ill, he said that to my uncle. He said, the Waynes don't realise that daddies have to die. And I think that was true in a sense, you know. I think who does realise it, who wants to realise it? But Alter Ego tried to teach you that. It would try to warn you that will happen at some point. Hopefully not for a long time, but it will happen. And also warns you about getting bald. You know, who thought that this would come through so soon? My God. But it's important to tell you about all these games, darling, and important that you know about them. These are 3 formative games for me, 3 strong games in my memory, and And I think it's important to just lay that down and let you see that maybe you want to try them. And I loved going in that train. I loved going out to Clydebank. I loved my Auntie Maureen. I loved my uncle. I loved my cousins. I loved those days. I loved going in that train journey with my man, my dad. And it's important to remember these things. It's important to remember the trips you made and the games you played. Because the shocking truth is that the day will come when the seats opposite you on the train are empty.